Hello. So one thing I've been seeing a lot lately is videos and articles and people just talking about quieting the mind. And this is something that I also really believed in and wanted to achieve for myself. Um, However, the way I see it now is that quieting the mind is a little bit of a fool's errand. Not because it can't be done, um, but because it happens naturally as a consequence when you're not giving the mind the job of sustaining who you think you are, of protecting that. Um, so don't go for quieting the mind. Go for instead letting go of who you think you are, or really realizing that who you think you are is not really who you are. And that's something we can talk about in another video. This whole concept of like letting go and because that can be another spiral or distraction that people, including myself, fall into. So yeah, don't go for a quiet mind. Go for realizing the truth of who am I really? Because if the sense of who I am that's defined by all these things like my job and my name and my body and the way I think and the way I think about certain particular things, the way I relate to my spouse, the way I relate to my kid, if that sense of I is feeling more real than anything else, then there's going to be a lot of thinking going into maintaining that. And if, for example, something challenges that, then there's going to be a lot of upset and a lot of things are going to come up because of that. So my invitation is don't waste your time trying to quiet your mind. Instead, bring your attention into really questioning who am I? And if something that you feel like is real, but you kind of intuit that it may not be real, then focus on that and ask yourself, okay, why is that feeling real? What about that is real? And who am I really? And just bring your attention to that. Otherwise, quieting the mind can become a technique. And so you're stuck now in the situation where you're having to quiet your mind as a thing you're doing. But that's not really what people want. And it doesn't really work. It's what we really want is the mind to be quiet naturally without us having to do anything to quiet it. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of a quiet mind. Um, like the way to quiet your mind is not by doing more things, it's by doing less things. Seems quite intuitive and common sense, but that's not usually the way we approach it. Just let me add these techniques into my life to quiet my mind. Let me spend my time doing these extra things to quiet my mind. And I'm not saying that a quiet mind cannot be achieved by other means, but it's not lasting. For example, one particular method I saw recently is if you try to get your mind to think about what your next thought is going to be, which is impossible because you can't predict that. But when you try to get your mind to try to predict that next thought, then the mind goes quiet in that attempt. But that is a technique. It lasts for as long as the attention is in that. But then, you know, your kid calls you, so the phone rings, you have to go back to work, something like that happens, and you're back to your busy mind. And that's not what we're after. What we're after is something that's permanent, that's lasting, and that doesn't involve us maintaining something else, an extra thing. It's the quiet mind as a natural consequence of realizing who you are. And that realization is not something that you have to upkeep. When you see something as true, you don't need to upkeep it. Just the fact that you see it as true is enough. And that's what we're going for.